Welcome, everybody. I'm Rex Sikes, and welcome to Create Your Best Life with Rex. It's an exciting day today. We've got the amazing Mr. Ben Gay III. He's been called a living legend in the world of sales. And after 50 years of professional sales and selling, he's been the number one salesperson in every organization in which he's worked. And at the age of 25, he was the president of what was then the world's largest direct sales network marketing company, having been personally trained by fellow sales legends J. Douglas Edwards, Dr. Napoleon Hill. Ben is the last known living protege of Dr. Hill. Earl Nightingale, William Penn Patrick, Zig Ziglar, and many other sales giants. And he is one of the most famous, popular, and powerful sales trainers in the world. Ben writes and publishes and produces the Closers, a book series that you must have if you're in the world of sales. And with that, I'm going to bring on Danny Walsh, and then we're going to bring on Ben. And Danny, are you here?
I'm here. Is Ben here? We're going to bring Ben on in a second. But yeah,
I just wanted to say, I mean, this is an exciting moment. Ben has actually done so many different things and has influenced so many of us in the world of sales and influence, persuasion, and in the personal and professional development arena. So, are you excited?
I'm super excited. This is going to be amazing. So without further ado, should we bring Ben to the stage?
We're going to bring Ben on, and people should know that Ben and we're doing something with Ben. Ben and I have a program called the Dynamics of Wealth Mastery, and so we'll talk a little bit about that too. But yeah, let's get Ben up here now.
Yep, let's do it. Hello.
There I am.
There you are. How are you, good sir?
I'm fine. How are you?
Well, we're excited to have you here, and I'm just fine and dandy. I hope you're excited to be here as well.
I am.
And there you go. Now we can see you.
Yeah. A little brighter.
Yeah, you're brighter.
We're all good. We're good to go. What an amazing introduction, and so many accolades that some people would literally give the arm and the leg for. Right? You've been built up with all of these things. We've got the books. The mention of Napoleon Hill and other greats as well. For people who don't know you, just give us the 2-minute, if it's possible, background. Maybe that's 10 minutes, right?
I'm a Southerner. 2 minutes is difficult, but I'll give it a shot.
I'm playing.
I was born into a sales family. My father was a salesman, owned his own business. All of my aunts and uncles did. Most of my neighbors did. I was raised 2 blocks out the front gate of East Lake Country Club, Bobby Jones, the great golfer's home course. And so I grew up around success and so on. Nobody gave me any money, but that became my comfort zone. And so when I found myself in poverty briefly in my early 20s, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know people lived that way. My poverty was I decided to get married, and mom and dad said, best of luck to you, as they handed me my suitcase and I went out the door trying to put a wife through nursing school. So one day, there are a few little things in the background before that. I've owned my own business since I was 14. 25 kids mowing lawns in the area for me. And won a citywide sales contest for Krispy Kreme donuts. Danny, I'll forgive you if you don't know what that is, but Krispy Kreme donuts it's a food group unto itself. And if you're raised in the South, it's what God eats for breakfast. Mm-hmm. So I won a citywide contest when I was 10 selling those, and won a red Columbia bicycle. And I sort of liked that. Didn't amount to much, but if you're 10, it was the world. So that sort of set me on a way of, what Dad talks about all the time makes sense. So when I found myself temporarily broke, never poor, but broke, I started looking through the newspapers, and I couldn't find anything I was qualified to do. I went all the way to the P's, psychologist, practitioner, so on, and I couldn't do any of those. I was a high school graduate, barely. And so as I got ready to throw the Atlanta Journal-Constitution in the nearest trash can, I saw a thing that said business opportunities. And I thought, I wonder what that is. So I looked down, and the first ad I came to said, if you know anything about marketing plans, want to make more money, call this number. So I went in the phone booth. Your younger people won't know what that is, but a phone booth with a door and everything, and dialed the number. Nice man answered, and I began questioning him to see if he was worthy of hiring Ben Gay III of Brown Gay Food Brokerage. Skipped over the part that the Brown Gay was my father, not me. And as I questioned him for 2 or 3 minutes, he said, whoa, stop. Mr. Gay, I'm not the man standing in a phone booth answering want ads. Where are you? And I told him. He says, you're about 2 blocks from my office. Be here in 10 minutes or never dial this number again. He hung up the phone. And so I scurried down to 1447 West Peach Street, skidded in with about a minute to spare. And I said to the receptionist, hi, I'm Ben, and my business partner became my business partner. My running buddy, Jimmy Rucker, was with me. I said, my name is Ben Gay. And from behind me, this Southern accent said, Ben Gay, that's a funny name. I turned around. I was used to that, the product. But I turned around and I said, hi, my name is Ben Gay. What's yours? And he said, I'm Zig Ziglar. Well, it turned out Zig had answered the same ad that I had answered. So there were 3 of us in what I thought was going to be a job interview. It was an opportunity meeting, Zig Ziglar, me, and Jimmy Rucker. And so we went through the presentation, scraped up our $91.41 to get in the business. And 2 years later, I was president of the company. I won a sales contest, and the mystery prize was presidency of the company. If the owner, he told me later, I said, what if somebody had won that you didn't like? He said, I would have changed the prize. You didn't know what it was, but I already had met you. I knew who you were. And so that is the prize. You're president of Holiday Magic Cosmetics, which was a big deal in the UK and all over much of the free world. So that's how I got started in big money selling. I was a manufacturer's rep before that, the #1 salesperson at Macy's Atlanta before that, and numerous other little endeavors along the way. But that's the day I went from $100 a week to $40,000 a month part-time. And that's in 1965 dollars. So that's about $400,000 a month now. And it all was because I answered a little ad. If you know anything about marketing plans, want to make more money, dial this number. Well, I was qualified only for the last sentence. I want to make more money. And that puts you at the front of rooms, even in Atlanta starting out. I got off to a little bit of a slow start because I wouldn't learn the scripts. After I got on track, Saturday mornings, you're up in front of the room, explaining to other people what you did, and then you're doing it regionally. And then I went on a trip with William Penn Patrick. I think we did 35 cities in 35 days, something like that. That's where I got to know him. And then bang, you're president of the company. I was 25 years old, and it was a magic place to be. Holiday Magic Cosmetics was the go-to, and our subsidiary companies. We had a Motorola company, vitamin company, so on. But it was the go-to place to be because we were doing the biggest meetings, had the most success. So if you were Zig Ziglar, Og Mandino, or fill in the blank, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, Earl Nightingale, you were trying to figure out a way to get there. And the way to get there was I was sitting in the catbird seat. So somebody asked me one day, how did you meet Og Mandino? And I said, I think I was going to the men's room. My point was he was in the hall the first time I met him, as were 12 other household names.
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Ben.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and it all started with a phone call because you knew what you wanted.
Yes.
Made that call, and then when you were given a choice of staying in the phone booth or getting your butt down to the office building, you ran down to the office building, and the rest is history. So what I love about that is that for people who want to be successful, it wasn't just sitting and hoping and wishing about being successful, but about actually taking some form of action to do that. I do want to say before I ask you or Danny to speak again, and that is, if people are watching live right now, they can ask questions and leave comments in the chat room wherever they're watching. And they can also in replay leave comments as well. And be sure to share this and like this and send it out there to other people so that they too can value from Ben's experience and his expertise. So, well, what say you, Danny?
I've got questions in abundance. This is amazing, and everybody in the chat, no doubt, has got questions as well. But what a start to an amazing career, and I think it is about that taking action, right, Ben? Because there's so many folks out there who an opportunity looks them square in the face, and they don't move fast enough. They don't scurry down to the place. They don't put themselves out, and they think another opportunity might come maybe next week or when they're ready. What's your thoughts about that? Because I think this is such an important lesson for the folks out there watching right now.
You hit on a really interesting point. Napoleon Hill was hired by William Penn Patrick to be my mentor. And in this book, Think and Grow Rich, this is one of the old originals signed by him. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
So cool.
I was talking to him one day about it, and I said, tell me, people have arranged their lives around it. Bob Proctor worked for me, but he never met Napoleon Hill. I didn't know of his fascination, or I would have introduced them to each other. But I said, people have built careers, changed their lives, and so on. I said, what? And I've read the book a couple of times at that point. What's the secret they're all looking for? And he said, action. Take action. That is the secret of Think and Grow Rich. And he said, the other thing they don't realize is I wrote it as a sales training manual. I didn't intend it to be deep philosophy. I was going to sell it to the sales community. Small circle. I had a friend named Morris Pickus. He was a business partner after I left Holiday Magic. And he said, I understand you worked with Napoleon Hill. And I said, yeah. He said, do you know how he became famous again? Because when the book first came out, right after the Depression, it had a little run and he became semi-famous. By the time we're talking about, he was a trivia question, as was the book. Well, my business partner, Morris Pickus, when he was a younger, he's now gone, when he was a younger consultant, called on Clem Stone, W. Clement Stone. And back in those days, you brought sort of like a hostess gift. You're calling on somebody, you find something to give them as you came in. At least that's what he told me. I've never done that. But he was looking for something to give him when they met. He was in a bookstore somewhere. I'd like to say the airport, but I really don't know. And he saw Think and Grow Rich, and he said, oh, I've heard about that. Morris Pickus had never read it. So he bought Think and Grow Rich and presented it to W. Clement Stone, who probably had heard of it, but he hadn't read it. He then read it, made it required reading for everybody at Combined Insurance, sold a few million copies of the book, brought back Dr. Hill's career back to life, and made the book a bestseller. And that came from my business partner. And then fast forward 20, 30 years, whatever it was, Dr. Hill is working for me, and Clem Stone became a friend, and so on. So there was at the core, the beginning of the modern self-development industry. You could say the Bible might have been among the early things also, but at the core of the beginning of the modern self-improvement industry, there were only about 12 of us. And everything you've heard about came from there. From there, I started Leadership Dynamics Institute, which went on to become a big deal and very profitable. Started Mind Dynamics Institute. Bob Proctor was an instructor there for us, and started the business that Rex is more involved with. So I take pride in that. The only thing I sort of regret is I was never a ta-da guy. I didn't maximize my role. Dr. Hill worked for me, Zig Ziglar worked for me, Og Mandino worked for me, Earl Nightingale was the voice of all of my companies. But unless you went to a meeting or were ingrained in the company, I didn't make a big deal out of that. So I regret that a little bit selfishly. Didn't change what happened, but selfishly, I regret it.
Well, this is, I mean, what a history and how fascinating. And, I'm always honored to know you and call you a friend. And we have a program called the Dynamics of Wealth Mastery that you and I are doing, a coaching, mentoring program for people. But before we talk about that, I want to go back to the notion of the action and that Danny brought up, because so many people hear this. You must take action. You must act. You must do something. Money loves speed. Make a quick decision and be slow to change it. And they don't do anything about it. They hear it and then they just sit there and hover, but never actually take action. What word of advice or suggestion, or for lack of a better term, kick in the butt would you give these people in order to get them to act in their own best interests when opportunity presents itself? Because you took it from the phone booth to the office to being the president of a company, and all these other people sit here and go, well, I don't know, I can't afford it, I can't do it, I don't have the time, I don't have money. Well, maybe there's something better, maybe there's something, and they just vacillate. How do you get people to move?
Take some small action to get started. I'm not saying that you can go from the phone booth to the presidency of Holiday Magic. And that wasn't planned.
Right.
When I won the contest, or Jimmy and I won the contest, actually, I knew there was a contest going on. I knew it was a year long. From time to time, they'd put some in the company newspaper about, 9 months to go and so on. I knew we were doing well. We were certainly tops in Atlanta, probably tops in the Southeast, but it wasn't a big deal to me. I was just working because I was raised to work. You didn't sit around. I got in the lawn mowing business because my father came home for lunch one day, I think from playing at golf down the street. And he said, "What are you doing here?" And I was 14. I said, "Well, I'm taking some time off." He said, "From what?" And I don't see you doing anything else. He said, "Why don't you do something? Go mow lawns." Well, I said, I'm not a big fan of mowing lawns. He used to have to beat me to mow our lawn. And so I'm not a big fan of that. And he said, "Give it a try." So I went out and mowed a few lawns, came back, and I said, I was right. I don't like working in Atlanta in the hot sun doing things physical. I'm not a physical laborer, I'm just not, never have been. And he said, "All right, let's build a business." I said, "How does that work?" And he said, "Well, you go out and sell the jobs. I know you can do that. You sold more donuts than they could make. And so you go out and sell the jobs, and you inspect the job when it's done and collect, and then you split the money with your friends." And I said, "Well, that's wonderful, except why would they work for half of what they're doing now?" He said, "A, they're not doing anything now because their father didn't kick them out in the street and tell them to go do something. And B, here's the program. Knock on the door, say, 'I'm Ben Gay. I live over on East Lake Drive, and we'd like to mow your lawn, but I know you don't know me. Maybe you know my father,'" which was a cute little thing to throw in there. They didn't know him either, but they thought they ought to know him if I said it that way. "So what we'll do is we'll mow your lawn, and when we're done, you pay us what you think the job is worth." And they said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." And Dad had told me they will pay you 2 or 3 times more than the going rate, and they'll pay you 2 or 3 more times than you have the guts to ask for. You split that, your friend is making as much or more as he would have made, and he didn't have to go sell, which he wasn't willing to do. Well, it was unbelievable. I'm making up numbers, but I think if we were charging $5 a yard 60 plus years ago, 70 years ago, Suddenly I was getting 15, 20 a yard. We mowed an overgrown yard in a big, beautiful house one day. He was out of town. I said, let's take a chance. We mowed it all, cut down the bushes, uncovered water fountains and brick pathways and so on. And the guy came back and the word spread through the neighborhood. He wanted to know who did his yard. And I was thinking, I wonder if I should tell him or just be quiet. That doesn't sound like he's happy. Well, I checked with him, went over and I said, I hope you're not mad, but I'm the one, my crew and I cleaned it. He says, fine. Counted off 10 $100 bills.
Wow.
For a job that the normal guy would have bid, because it was so big, $10 on. And he said, you're my regular guy from now on. Now, he wasn't that generous next time, but he said, I was dreading it. He said, I couldn't do it. And I was embarrassed to ask anybody else. So he said, I was sort of praying that the bushes would grow up tall enough where you couldn't see the house. Then it would just be a vacant yard. $1,000 in 1950 something. It's astounding. So my dad's program that was another thing, introduction to scripts, planned presentations. I said to my father when he said getting that donut selling thing, and somebody said a minute ago in the comments, Krispy Kreme was a fad for a while years ago. They're still a fad and been going a long time. You got to get the original one. It was a craze for a while. Yeah, you got to get the original one, the glazed. But it is unbelievable, and everybody knows it. A Southerner can spot a Krispy Kreme donut in a grocery store from 50 yards away. And so he said, knock on the door. We have screen doors in the South. Knock on the door. Let them still see your shoulder, but step back on the latch side of the screen where they have to open the door to really see who's there. And when they do, the screen door, when they do, say, here are your Krispy Kremes and hand them the box. That was how I sold more donuts than anyone in Atlanta. It's probably a record that still stands. It got down to how fast could I walk and restock. It wasn't a matter of selling. Everybody that opened the door bought. They'd take the donuts and go, oh, well, thank you. And it was sort of like you could see, did I order them? Or is he psychic? Or whatever. And the next thing from them would be, how much do I owe you? And I said, well, if you just want the one box, it's whatever it was. Will one be enough? And many people said, no, I need 2 or 3 or whatever. And Krispy Kremes weren't on their mind till I knocked on the door and stood out of the way. So my father taught me, he didn't call it a script, but he taught me the value of planned presentations.
Beautiful. I'm going to say this. Through the years, I've gotten to spend a lot of time with Ben, and no amount of time is enough time to be able to spend with Ben. But I know that Danny has questions and has an opportunity here to talk and ask. So I want to be sure that you get that chance, Danny.
It's an honor, and I think listening to the story and trying to picture that scene unfolding, there's so many strategic moves there. Do you think that they were kind of fumbled in the beginning, done by accident, or were they always intentional? What was it feel like when you was trying to do that for the first time? It was like, wow.
A whole lot of accident, whole lot of luck. And people say, motivational speakers, there's no such thing as luck. You create your life. There is a such thing as luck. It's on top of whatever you're doing deliberately, but there is luck. And I don't discount the value of that. It was lucky that I was raised 2 blocks out the front gate of East Lake Country Club. I didn't create Malcolm Forbes or Steve Forbes. No, Malcolm Forbes, his dad, was asked one time, what's the secret of success? He said, pick your parents carefully.
Quite.
And so I was lucky to do that. They raised me properly. And mother would say, if I did something wrong or so on, she'd say, I don't care what you do, just tell them you were raised better. So I had the tools. I had what it took. I had, my mother was a depression baby. She was born in 1919 into a wealthy year. Women here got the right to vote. into a wealthy family. Her father was a judge in North Andover, Massachusetts, and the Depression hit, and they lost all their money because of the Depression and because my grandfather was an honorable man. You might even say naive. He took most of his money and put it into Manufacturers Hanover Trust Bank to make it up to the depositors rather than just take his hit, and they took theirs and marched on. So and as a Depression person, I was raised hearing, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. A penny saved is a penny earned. Waste not, want not. You're not done because you're not done, type things. Let me tell you about winning that year-long sales contest. After I became president and went to the home office and was able to look around, I asked for the records of that contest between Zig, me, and 50,000 other distributors. And they brought me the stuff, and they said, did you know how close it was? And I said, no, I don't even know what I did for the year. And she gave me, the lady who brought it to me, gave me the difference in dollars that there was between Zig and his partner and Jimmy Rucker and me. On the last night of the contest, and I didn't know this, what turned out to be the last night of the contest, Zig was at home in Columbia, South Carolina, having a victory party because he knew he had won. And he thought he was going for the Rolls Royce, which was the second prize. And he did get that. And so I looked at it, and then I started thinking, and I called Jimmy Rucker back in Atlanta, and I said, Jimmy, the contest ended. We won by, I forget what it was, we'll say $10,000 over a year. And he said, boy, it was right to hold that last meeting. It turns out that we won by the amount we sold in an opportunity meeting the last day of the contest. Zig was celebrating his victory. We were still working. And that literally was the difference in a year-long contest. One meeting, because I was raised that you do what your job is until it's done.
Wow. Wow. No, I know we have comments, and there's a question or some questions in the chat, but Danny, either we do a question. By the way, again, since we're about the halfway point of the show, go ahead and like it, share it, ask questions, and comment. And in the replay, do the very same thing. Yes. And wherever this plays, go ahead and subscribe to it. It'll play on my YouTube channel. Ben will probably have it on his. Danny will have it on his. So in other words, subscribe so that you always get notified about when you have our show coming up and when you have incredible guests like Ben Gay and my incredible partner, Danny Walsh.
Such amazing stories and amazing insight. We work with a lot of folks in entrepreneurial, they're entrepreneurs or the business owners, and the big driver in a lot of this is sales, right? More money coming into the business. It's the lifeblood of the business. We've got folks out there who are afraid to ask for money in the first place, and they're even more intimidated by actually raising the prices. And you mentioned a few techniques, shall we say, earlier, Ben, of being able to command more from whether it's the garden or the donuts, right? But we've got folks out here, they're in business, but they're afraid to ask for the sale in some respects, but they're even more intimidated by raising the prices. What can we put into play around that based on your amazing knowledge and insight that you've gleaned?
Well, last things first, as far as raising your prices, raise them. If you think it's justified and the market will support it, raise them. People don't remember what your price was. And I always grandfather people in. If you bought a speech from me in the past for the old fee of $12,500, you can have me appear at your organization for $12,500 forever. I will never raise the price on you. So I have people I have one guy grandfathered in at less than that, $9,500, I think. And he said, "When are you going to bump me?" And I said, "I'm not, ever. That's your price." But no one else is getting $9,500. They've all died. You know, you're the last survivor. So that, you know, just raise your prices and get started somewhere. And remember, with the internet, there's so many. The good news is the internet reaches so many people. The bad news is, I'm blessed with an unusual name. People remember Ben Gay, the ointment. I'm speaking like you know what it is in the UK, but here it is Ben Gay, the ointment. And so because of that, my name is on millions of books. The Closers Part 1 has sold 10.5 million copies when we quit counting 30 years ago. So people sort of think they know me more often than not, but it doesn't make any difference. People buy from people they know, like, trust, and with whom they feel safe. Your job is to become that person. You know, well, you've known people for 50 years. I don't have 50 years, or I can't wait 50 years. If you read The Closers Part 2, the whole series is great, but the one that directly addresses your question is called Sales Infiltration. It starts on page 257 in The Closers Part 2, and it shows exactly how to get known, liked, and trusted in 10 minutes. And have your endorsement, therefore, of the product be meaningful, which is sort of the secret. If they buy from people they know, like, and trust, your first sale isn't to sell the vacuum cleaner, it's to sell yourself. So, hello, whatever I'm here for, you can trust me. I won't screw you over. You may not like the product. It may be priced too high. There may be all sorts of reasons we can't do business, but it won't be because you don't like me, because that's my first goal, and I'll get that done before I say a word about the product or service.
Well, it's powerful. You know, the other thing is that Ben Gay, you are the pain reliever.
Financial pain reliever.
You take the pain out of the process. You take the pain out of the sale. You take the pain out of parting with money. So because you add value to what they do, you know. And as I was saying, you know, we do the dynamics of wealth mastery. And so I'm just going to put this question out there here now, and that is, you know, we're doing something important together. And one of the opportunities that you have, if you're watching this, is getting coached and mentored by Mr. Ben Gay.
And I try and do for people what Dr. Napoleon Hill did for me. There's no lessons and fill out this and do this. We just talk and we find out what you need. And to the best of our ability, we provide that and or send you to someone who can provide that. Dr. Hill was paid $50,000 to be my friend. I always felt like Rodney Dangerfield, the old comedian, who said they had to tie a pork chop around his neck so the family dog would play with him. Well, Bill Patrick had to tie a $50,000 check around my neck. That's about $500,000 today. So Dr. Hill would play with me for a year. And then towards the end of that year, he started hinting like, well, we're going to go forward. So I said, well, let me check. So I went back to Bill Patrick's office and I said, Bill, Dr. Hill is sort of hinting around that he'd like to go another year. And I knew what he'd paid him. I didn't know on the day he said, this is your new friend. But I found out because I saw all the checks. And I said, what should I tell him? He said, well, have you benefited from it? I said, oh, absolutely. Mastermind group I set up is now sort of running the company. I hate to admit that instead of me, but it would do fine if I died. And this and that and so on. He said, okay, so you think it was worth the $50,000? I said, yeah. He said, well, then you have a decision to make. And that was the moment I discovered the second year was on me. And so I gleefully paid. It wasn't gleeful because I had to go home and explain to my wife that we just spent in today's money $500,000. So Dr. Hill would continue to be my friend. When he was in town, he stayed at the house. She treated him like a grandfather. And now she realized that we were going to have to pay $50,000 for him to continue to be my grandfather. But Danny, you were talking earlier about the importance of sales. Dr. Hill trying to think of his name, I'm having Elmer Wheeler, I forget, one of them said, nothing happens till somebody sells something. And you can look around the office you're in right now and look at that microphone, for instance, your mouth. Somebody sold that to you. And somebody sold it to the person who sold it to you. There was a distributor before the retailer you bought it from. And then you go through it piece by piece. That's probably foam. Somebody sold the microphone guy the foam. Somebody sold the elements of the foam to the guy who made the foam. My point, without totally belaboring it, is I'm looking at your microphone and the stand it's on, and I'm guessing there were 75 salespeople involved, one step at a time, to get that microphone in front of your face. Nothing happens till somebody sells something. We hold the most important jobs in the world. And people say, well, how about doctors? They're great. They might keep you alive. Everything they pick up and deal with you with, stethoscopes, scalpels, so on and so, was sold to them by a salesperson. They wouldn't have any of that stuff. None of it. So nothing happens till somebody sells something. Cute, quick story. Elmer Wheeler was hired by F.W. Woolworth. They were the largest retailer of almost every product you can name. It was the old 5 and dime store. They were also the largest restaurant chain in the world, long before McDonald's and so on. They had, I read somewhere one time, they had either 19 or 29 miles of lunch counters in all their stores cumulatively. So they go to Elmer Wheeler and said, we want to increase our sales. He said, what do you want me to zero in on? They said, well, the most profitable thing in our store is eggs. He said, I didn't know you sold eggs. We sell them behind the lunch counter. And some people like an egg in their milkshake. Some even like 2 in their milkshake. And he said, that's the most profitable thing. And they said, yeah. He said, huh. So he sat at the end of a lunch counter, watched them operate for a day or two, whatever. And at the end of the time, he realized that apparently the servers behind the counter hadn't been told about the profit center the eggs were. So he had them put a dozen eggs or whatever under the counter. It used to have horseshoe shapes in the counter. Under the counter at the tip of the horseshoe, where you had 6 or 8 people sitting around, and then it went to the next horseshoe and so on. Put a dozen eggs under every horseshoe. And when anybody ordered a milkshake, they were instructed to pick a palm 2 eggs in their hand, hold them up and say 1 egg or 2. And enough people who never ordered an egg in their milkshake in their life said 1. And enough people who always had an egg put in their milkshake said 2. That they caused an egg shortage in the United States. Briefly, they were, I'm sure, in a few months able to get back on top of it. But because of their size and this simple little idea, 1 egg or 2, 4-word script, they caused an egg shortage in the United States. Nothing happens till somebody sells something.
Wow. Wow. So what do you do with these people who go, I don't like sales, I'm not a salesperson, it's not about money? Yeah, because there are plenty of them.
But anytime somebody says it's not the money, it's the money.
Indeed.
They just don't think they can get any of it. Listen, there are people who, can you train anybody to be a salesperson? Yes. I had 1 million people, counting part-timers, in 20 countries. 1 million people working for me in Holiday Magic and the subsidiary companies at any given time. 1 million. Most of them part-time and most of them not succeeding because they didn't work. But we gave everybody the opportunity. We used to carry little compact mirrors like a woman carries in her purse in our suit side pocket. And when somebody said, well, I don't know if I'm qualified, we'd pull out the mirror, stick it under their nose, and see if we got vapor. And if we got vapor, we said, you're qualified. The president of this company barely graduated from high school, had no real business experience, and rose to the top and is making God knows what a year because he got in, followed the system. See, in this company, you're in business for yourself, but you're not in business by yourself. And so we created a framework where anybody could do it. Tony Milano hopped off of a milk truck in front of the Hotel Pontchartrain in Detroit one day. I had a group I was training that had gone outside maybe for a cigarette break in those days. And he got off the truck. I said, young man, how much you make doing this? And I forget the figure, $600 a month or a week or something. I said, what if I could triple that? Whatever he said. What if I could triple that? He said, well, I'd be very interested. I said, well, I'll leave somebody here with your truck. If they tow it, we'll pay to get it back. Come in this room. So we put him in the room as a training tool. He and I talked. We did the whole opportunity meeting for him. And he had little or no education. He had, as best I recall, less education than I had. And so I went through the presentation, and he, like I did with Bill Dempsey back in Atlanta, joined. The next year, he made $380,000 in 1966 money. So anybody can do it if anybody's willing to give it a try. How much time do I spend trying to get somebody to take a try? Not much. It's easier to throw the chum off the back of the boat and get the fish that swim up. I don't put on diving masks and go looking for the ones that didn't. And when word gets around, the greatest tool I ever had with my friends, neighbors, and relatives who were skeptical, oh, what's Ben up to now? I got into this business, which was the neighborhood I was raised in. All of that went away when I pulled up in my brand new 1965 Cadillac. Didn't say anything to anybody, just parked the car up front at the top end of the driveway, went in and visited mom and dad. When I came out, there were 6 or 8 people standing around the car. And they said, well, that's a nice car. And I said, yeah, it really is. It drives very neat too. How exactly, again, did you get this? I said, well, I got in this business and, blah, 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 and did what they told me. Do you still have those meetings? These are the meetings I tried to get them to come to that they wouldn't come to. Yeah, we still have a meeting, Georgian Terrace Hotel, where Peachtree and Ponce de Leon connect in Atlanta. Be there. What we do 5 or 6 nights a week. The next night after that encounter, my whole neighborhood was at the meeting. I walked in, hi, Ben, hi, Ben, hi, Ben. People operate, word pictures work. He said you can make a lot of money in this business. We didn't believe him. He's just the kid next door. Here he is in a 1965 Sedan DeVille Cadillac. Let's find out what he's up to. So show them the results of other people. And I probably could have made more money, but it would have been more frustrating. Skim off the top those who come up going, I'm in, let me in.
Danny?
Such
and by the way,
amazing
there are comments and there are some questions. They haven't been flashing up on the screen, but just as good. I can see some of them. I can't see all of them.
A lot of people are just like freaked out by the amounts and the period in time.
That's right, Julie. $3.6 million in 1966. A milkman with no education.
Folks are doing the maths real quick. There are indeed a few questions, and we do want to kind of pick these up. And there is a question from Denise. When trying to make connections with a company, getting past the gatekeeper to actually go in there and sell some stuff, that's always a difficulty. I've got my take on it, but it'd be amazing to hear from the master.
Well, you have to understand where you are in the sales process. It's not get past him or her to get in and sell the guy at that point. It's sell, we'll say her, because that's what I was raised with, female receptionists and gatekeepers. They're the most powerful people in the company. William Penn Patrick owned Holiday Magic. I ran Holiday Magic, or got credit for running it. It was really run by Marty Connolly. Martha Conley, my secretary. Today I would call her my executive assistant. And when we're alone, I call her my boss. She ran my family life. She determined who saw me and so on. So your first job is to sell the gatekeeper on you. See, his or her job is rating is based on how much they protect, but let the good stuff through. So if you convince her, I'll say her again, if you convince her that she will look better if she lets you in, that's the sale you have to make. And acknowledge that. Go, hi, I'm the person you're paid to keep out of Mr. Zawicki's office. I understand that. But I think I come with clean hands. May I tell you what I'm doing? By the way, what a beautiful family is that? Are those your kids? Yes. Oh, they're lovely. And I notice you have a Springer Spaniel. Is that at home? And so, yes, yes. And so on. Let me give you one. The toughest gatekeeper in the world that I've ever met works for a friend of mine who is a billionaire with a B. And we were talking, I was down doing a seminar for his top producers. You had to be a millionaire to be in the room. You just wouldn't have been there if you weren't. So I'm working with some of his top people, and they were talking, and we were talking about getting past the gatekeeper. And I said pretty much what I just said here. But while we're talking, we're out in this little courtyard, the office surrounded, and this squirrel comes running down a tree, scampers across a railing, runs over to the end of the railing, picks up a soda cracker, sort of like a turtle on top of a fence post. It didn't get there by itself. Somebody put that soda cracker out there for the squirrel. And they said, oh, that's Buddy. And she, I won't cough up her name, but she, that's her squirrel. Well, she was the gatekeeper. And she loves that squirrel. And I said, that's fascinating. So when I got home, I already had a leg up. I was a good friend of the boss, but you still got to get her to do things for you faster, move you to the head of the line, whatever. When I got home, I live out in the country. I went to our local feed store and I said, is there such a thing as a gourmet squirrel food? And they said, oh, yeah, it's expensive, but here. And they showed me, well, expense is a relative term. You could fill up a box. We have in the United States priority mail boxes, about this big. I'm not doing this well. You could get a loaf of bread, maybe 2 loaves of bread in it. And I said, okay, I need to fill up a priority mailbox. Well, you need 5 pounds. So I said, great, 5 pounds, please. Went home, wrote a note, went to the post office, put squirrel food in, and addressed it to the squirrel. Buddy was his name, at the office address, company name, office address, so on, and mailed it, priority mail. And then tracked it. I knew when it got there. It hadn't been there 45 minutes when my phone rang, and it was her. And she said, I got the squirrel food, or Buddy got the squirrel food, and he loves it, and I thank you so much. And I said, not a problem. I just saw him, and poor devil was eating soda crackers. He deserves squirrel food. When you run out of that, let me know. I'll keep it. I'll keep him in squirrel food forever. She said, thank you so much. It was, as best I recall, $5 for the squirrel food and maybe $5 for priority mail from here to Southern California. We're in Northern California. And she said, oh, Ben, one other thing. Anytime you need anything from this company, you call me and it will be handled. And I said, well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's $10. Listening carefully, observing what's going on, and buying this little ratty squirrel, $10 worth of, I probably grand total over the months till I got word Buddy had passed away. I probably spent $15 on squirrel food, but I had instant access. And here's a specific where it paid off. For some reason, we didn't send an invoice quick enough to my friend to get it approved and paid, which I was told after I was in Pasadena. And so I came out of the meeting and I had the note in my pocket. And I said, by the way, I said, no problem, but if you could move this along, we didn't send the invoice. They're supposed to pay 30 days in advance, and this is the day I'm doing the session. I'll never forget it. I'd never heard the term before. She plucked it out of my hand, said, easy peasy, tapped on her computer, and zzz, out came a check for what I think he's a $12,500 person. $12,500 check. She signed it and she said, take it into him and he'll sign it. And I said, thank you. And I'm thinking, thank Buddy. That's who deserves to be thanked. That little greedy squirrel chasing his saltine crackers got me $12,500 like that. And the relationship would have continued, but the chemistry of it changed because the gatekeeper thought I was the nicest person she'd ever met. So the first product you have to sell is you, not the appointment, not your product or service. And remember, gatekeepers can really be dangerous. Virtually anyone in an organization can say no, including the gatekeeper. She just says no by saying, oh, he's filled up. We don't have any appointments. And only one person can say yes. So don't dump your story on the receptionist or the secretary. But A, they don't care. And B, they're only qualified to say no.
Okay.
Mic drop business. Everybody's loving this in the chat. So many amazing comments and such powerful insight. And the gate really does swing both ways, right? And some people will give up. It's about the approach, and a squirrel literally saved the day. What a squirrel. I think this is so important for a lot of folks watching this right now, because people will give up at the first obstacle or first hurdle, and they honestly believe that they've failed at that point, right? It's like, oh, that's the end of it. There's no hope. And clearly, with a little bit of innovation, a little bit of what they say, out of the box thinking, right? There is certainly hope. And so many good points coming from this. I just want to move on to another point if we can. Ben, we've got a few chats going on a few different things. You mentioned earlier the concept of the mastermind, and I know this is something that features in the works of Dr. Hill and is in countless other places where you can read this, the mastermind. And you mentioned the mastermind running the company. How significant is mastermind, or more importantly, mastermind done right? I think this is something that I hear, hey, we're having a mastermind. And you're like, are you really? What's she thinking around that?
I read the book, and then I met Dr. Hill. You know, it wasn't like I didn't know about masterminds, but I didn't know about mastermind. So one day after he was hired, bribed to be my friend, somebody came in and complained about something. The lawyer didn't like something the art department was doing, or, blah, blah, blah. And Dr. Hill said, listen to it. Our rule, his rule, I didn't make it up, was he would never comment or question or criticize me while other people were there. He just sat there like a wise old guru at the end of my conference table. And when they left, if he kept writing, I realized I must not have screwed up much. If the door clicked shut and his head came up, I remember thinking, uh-oh. Now, apparently I did something wrong. So this person, whoever it was, came in, whined about the other person, and I think a couple other people had done it that day. And he said, how do you feel about that? I said, well, I'll tell you how I feel. I sit here all day, and the legal department complains about the advertising department. Advertising department complains about the print shop. Print shop complains about Bill Brogan, who buys everything. He was our purchaser. And all day long. And he said, you ever had him up to the house? And I said, well, a couple of them, because we're friends. He said, why don't you make them all friends? So he said, have every single person that's whining and complaining up to the house. Do a spread, cater it, do it right, and make them, let them play pool, let them do this, that, and so on. And And he said, and watch who likes the dog. We had a 236-pound St. Bernard. He said, pay attention to who likes the dog. And Dr. Hill was a little intimidated. 236 pounds was more than he weighed. And Caesar loved him and put his head in his lap, and Dr. Hill would pat him and all. He said, pay attention to that. So had him up at the house, had a grand evening and so on. Paid attention. Everybody liked the dog. Caesar was hard to hate. And my wife at the time, she's since passed away, would run around saying to people, because they drool, it dries clear. It dries clear all over their suits, dresses that they had worn to impress me. And the next morning, the whining stopped. He said, now form your mastermind. Meet with them once a week. In addition to see them all the time anyway, meet with them in the mastermind group once a week without fail, whatever day you can do. I was out traveling many of the weekends, so he said, pick a day that you know you're going to be here Wednesday. Consistency is important. And then don't call them in as enemies, call them in as friends. Greet them like the old buddies that were just up at the house. And then say, okay, today, like in a mastermind, like I'd read in the book and ignored, today we're going to help Stan with his problems in the advertising department. It doesn't mean everybody knows something about something. Bill Brogan, who was our production guy, our procurer guy, was an old Army guy. He spent $1 billion a year of the government's money running the purchasing and Holiday Magic Cosmetics. To him was like pocket change. But he was 65 or 70 years old. He'd lived a lot of life. And just through general exposure, he knew more about advertising than ever dawned on me he might. He'd been in legal situations. He knew more about law than I ever would have thought. You get 10 or 12 people sitting around the table who've got any age on them and any experience on them at all. They can all contribute. And when they do, he said, and they will, praise them. Reward the behavior you want to see repeated. Ignore the behavior you don't want to see repeated. So let them know it's okay to say, Mr. Gay, or Ben, they all call me, but Mr. Gay, the idea you had last week sucks. I didn't say anything at the time because I didn't think I was allowed to. It sucks. Here's a better way to do it. And everybody around the table was going, yeah, I was going to say that. And I said, well, I didn't have this in mind when I formed the mastermind group, but thank you. And whatever it was, I changed it. And the next 20 things they came up with, and they built things together. Now the legal department wasn't the enemy of everybody in the building. It was the friend who would keep them out of trouble with me, with the associations we belonged to, with whatever. And because they could contribute meaningful stuff. And as soon as they saw the concept, it only took a meeting or two, fully kick in. They couldn't wait to get to the meetings. Well, I think it was Wednesday we settled on. Couldn't wait to get there. And on the rare occasion where I couldn't be there, Dr. Hill said the meeting is more important than you. And they shouldn't have to jerk themselves around because of your schedule. So have a backup in mind. Well, I had 10, 12 of the most talented people on earth in their individual fields. I could throw a dart and pick the person who would take my place, and did a few times. And I get back, how'd it go? And Marty always kept the door open. Marty, my gatekeeper, said it went great. They were laughing and giggling and came out patting each other on the back and everything. She said it's an entirely different world here.
So glad I asked that. And such powerful insight again to share with the folks watching. Alison's watching, Eric Swanson's watching, Julie, Darlene, Denise, Jordan. There's a bunch of folks in the chat. We've got chats going on all over the place. We are approaching that time rapidly, and I could stay here happily all day and listen to these stories. Rex, where are we up to?
Well, there's good news because you and Ben and I are going to talk in the next day, or actually 2 days from now. But yeah, we're at that time when we got to get going and we have to say goodbye. And I'm sad to say goodbye, but I'm so happy that we have gotten together and that you got to share your expertise. And Danny, Ben, and I are doing something special, and we got some things for you. And there is a link, or Danny can put something up about how if you want to get coached by Ben and Rex, then you can go there and express your interest, and we'll get back to you, regarding that. But things are changing and things are moving along, and so give us a little bit of time. But this way, if you're watching this live or replay, go to rexsikes.com/Ben and Rex, and we'll get you something in the email sometime soon, and you'll know exactly how you can participate with us. That said, let's take a minute or two and let Ben have the final word. But Ben, maybe you want to talk about that program, because that's part of the kinds of things that we're doing, and how and what. Because earlier, you made the beautiful point about the gatekeeper and about appealing to them and demonstrating the benefits that they get. Because of course, everybody's interested in what's in it for me. They don't care what's in it for you, and they don't care what's in it yesterday or a year from now. They go, what is it in it for me right this moment? So when it comes to the kinds of things that we can do together, the three of us, what say you in terms of how this can benefit them?
Well, I didn't anticipate that question when I was asked to describe the mastermind group, but that's what we're doing. We're forming a mastermind group of people who are, I'm counting on you. I'll tell you if I see a ringer, because there are some. But I'm counting on you primarily to weed out the ones that just wouldn't be a good fit. Doesn't make them a bad person. They just wouldn't be a good fit. So what I want is a group of winners around, or people who have potential to be winners and are willing to work for it and follow ideas and at least try the suggestions. You don't have to follow them. I've gotten many bad suggestions from many wonderful people. Wasn't right for me at the time, but I know when you're in and I know when you're out. So we're looking for the people who are in to form our mastermind group, and on a larger scale, we will do together what I did with that 10 or 12 people. I keep saying 10 or 12. The table sat 12. My conference table sat 12. And Dr. Hill was usually one of them. So I think it's 10, 11, 12 people. Do what we did. Pull a team together who cheers for each other, who is positive. And if you've got any negativity, mention it to one of us secretly and quietly. But don't pollute the pond. And as long as you stay in that happy atmosphere of trying to move everyone forward, some will move at different paces, different times. If you want to know how a good mastermind group works or a sales organization, get a bag of your microwave popcorn and put it in the oven. In mine, it's 1 minute and 50 seconds before all that are ever going to pop. But I'm always fascinated. I hit go, and I think it's 40 seconds later, the first one goes off. And then it's almost a minute before it sounds like a machine gun and they're all going off. And then I wait at 1 minute and 50 seconds. I wait for the last one to pop. And rarely is there more than four kernels left in the bag. So I know as a good sales manager, I got all I was going to get. And in the mastermind group, that's what we're going to do. We want all that want to pop to join us and pop. And those who don't, hey, there's many other things in the world you could be doing. This isn't the beginning or end of your life, but it could be a very important part of your life, as it was when I never had any idea when Bill Patrick came up my office door. He wasn't asking to be let in. That was his notice of I'm coming in. And the door opened, and there he stood with this little old man who was, I think, 84 at the time. And I said, hi. And being a Southerner, I got up. My name's Ben Gay. And Bill Patrick looked at me like I was an alien. He said, Ben, that's Dr. Napoleon Hill. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't recognize you. All the old books had that high collar, and he looked like he just escaped a lynching party. And and much younger and stiff the way he used to be for a camera, because if you did anything, it blurred the lens. So I said, I just didn't recognize you. I'm sorry. But Dr. Hill, it's a pleasure to meet you. He said, call me Nappy. And that was the beginning of a fight that went on for 2.5 years. I'm a Southern gentleman. You respect your elders. You respect doctors, whatever kind of doctor they are. And so I said, let me tell you now, I will never call you Nappy. I will call you Dr. Hill to the day one of us departs this relationship. And I used to structure entire conversations so I didn't have to say Dr. Hill, because if I did, call me Nappy. So we want to do that again. My whole career since that period has been doing for others what Dr. Hill did for me.
And you're invited to participate. And so go to the link that we put up a little while ago, or that we'll put up again, and find out how you may qualify to join Ben and Danny and I in a mastermind, and in the process where I promise you, I guarantee you that you get to sit at the feet of, somebody said, I'll sit on the floor. You sit at the feet and you partake of the meal, what that's being offered, and your life, your sales, your business will transform, and you'll be happy that you did it. So with that, Ben, I'm so grateful. Danny, I'm going to let you say whatever you'd like to say. And
such an amazing conversation, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation in 2 days to figure out some of this stuff and other things going forward. It's been a pleasure. It's been a lot of insight for a lot of people, and a lot of folks in there are commenting and enjoyed this and really absorbed word for word what you've said. And I know this is going to have a profound impact on the lives of many people who watch this long into the future. So Ben, thank you so much for joining us on this show. Rex, a pleasure as always.
Yes, both of you.
Ben, it's time you say we have to say goodbye, but we will say hello again in 2 days. And thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure and honor. And I've been noticing the comments. I didn't want to break up the conversation, respond to them, but you've got a very kind audience who is actually paying attention. That's amazing.
True.
Yeah, so good. So good.
Good observation. Thank you so much. And we'll see you in a couple just a little while.
Right.
Thanks so much. Rex. Hopefully this is still working and like Rex is not frozen. But how cool was that? Let us know in the comments. Let us know in the comments if you followed along from the beginning. If not, this is on replay. It's on YouTube. It's on Facebook. It's in Create Your Best Life with Rex in the Facebook group. If you're not in the group, join the group. We're going to stick around for a little bit longer. Let us know your takeaways from that. Let us know your comments. We can feed those back. But Ben Gay, everybody, and Rex.
Yes, sir.
A pleasure.
Indeed. And absolutely. And for those of you who may not know, Danny is an expert in this technology and about the internet and about marketing and about putting things together. And so, we have that. We've got Ben Gay, who's an expert in his area of expertise. I mean, you've heard so much from him already, but you haven't heard it all. I can promise you that. And Ben and I have done a series of recordings that are part of the program as well, and as well as the live coaching that we're going to be doing. And if it's right for you, and I believe it is, then we hope you'll join us.
Yeah, 100%. And there's links to different things. A few days ago, we sat down and we've started to put some things online of Rex's, and you've got so much stuff in the archives. It's like, this is like Christmas time. Every time I talk to Rex, he's like, oh man, there's a new gift to unwrap. And there's so much in the archives. Rex is like, hey, this is the login to this thing. And I'm like, how many blogs you've created, how many courses and programs and things that are well received. We only need to look. The book's behind Rex. We've got the book, right? If you've not got the book, you need to go and get the book. The link is on Rex's thing. This is like one of the coolest books. I'm not going to spoil it for you, right? If you look on my story, I think there's an excerpt from the book. But Rex, just working with you over these last few weeks and months is been life-changing, business-changing. Like, so much has come from this, and there's a long way to go with this, right? And it's everything from the book to the programs and things that folks just don't know in this audience. They don't know about, and I think it's kind of like a duty to introduce people to more of Rex, more of Ben Gay, more of Les Brown, and the people that we've had on, Jerick Robbins. And if you've not watched the replays of this, you go to rexsikes.tv, and like all of the replays are on there. And we're going to just do that like Danny technology thing and bring all of this stuff closer to you guys who are turning up each and every week. You're watching, you're listening attentively, you're taking this stuff down, you're taking notes, because it's all of us that need to work with this stuff, right? It's no good if it's in an archive. It's no good if it's on a shelf, Rex, right?
Man. Well, and Danny, and that's an important point. A lot of people buy books or they get programs. They never open them up. Ben will talk about that. He's got somebody had a copy of Think and Grow Rich, and they can't open it because it's never been opened. They're concerned about breaking the spine because, for all these years it sat, with the spine out on a bookshelf. And it's true. If you don't apply what you're learning, you're not going to change. And the sad part about most people, and I've for over 40 years, 50 years, maybe closer to 60 now, but, I've asked in the beginning of programs, what is it that stops most people? And you get all sorts of answers, and all sorts of reasons and explanations. I go, okay, they go, well, fear, lack of money, lack of time, commitments, and I go, yeah, but what are all those things? And they go, it's a thought. We can call them rationalizations, we can call them excuses, we can call them reasons, we can call them whatever, but it's a thought. It's a mental packet of energy that you think, in theory, between your ears, that is stopping you from doing the very things that you might want to do because they'd be good for you, only you are afraid or worried or concerned or whatever, which is that thought, that mental packet of energy preventing you. And this is why it's so important. Henry Ford said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're correct. So whatever you decide, you're right. But for me, the best Henry Ford quote is not that one, although that's powerful. It's the one that says, I never let what I cannot do prevent me from doing what I can. So when you encounter a thought as an excuse, a reason, a rationalization, a whine, a complaint, a snivel, or a blame, stop and realize that unless you change your thought, nothing's going to change. You're going to keep doing the same old thing over and over again, and expect a different result and still be disappointed. And the bottom line is this: if you said yes today, tomorrow might be different. It may not be, but it might be different. But if you don't say yes today, you can guarantee that tomorrow will be the same, and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 years from now, it will be the same until you change that thought and until you say yes. And so the opportunity for people is always to be open to the possibility that something new can occur for you, and that you don't have to be held hostage from your past, the disappointments, the abuses, the wounds, but you can be free of those to move forward in ways that can delight and surprise you in ways that you could never, ever begin to imagine until you change that thought.
And in some respects, we've done this before, is what's the cost of continuing in the certain direction? What's the cost of not doing something? There's, in some cases, you'll never know. That's...
You know what, Danny, I would say this. I've spent hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars on my own personal and professional development through the years, workshops, meditation experiences, retreats, mastermind, you name it. I've spent tons of money, and I still do. Had I not, I can guarantee you that the expense would be far greater than what I invested. The return on investment that I got from spending that amount of money is what kept me from not going broke by not spending the money. I mean, it seems maybe counterintuitive to some people, but it's like if you don't plant the seed, you ain't going to get the fruit or the vegetable.
Without a doubt. And I think being in the room, Rex, is far different to reading the book. It's like it's night and day. You know, I was fortunate enough last few weeks. I think I've been in the room with our good friend Russell Brunson, and what you read in the book, and then what you get in person, and then what you get in a more serious, closer knit group. There's a big difference in all of that, and you'll see that with mentors. You'll see that in mastermind groups. This is why these things are bigger investments, right? Because the quality, the level of understanding, the level of sharing, and the level of support that you get the further you get into a program or a mastermind or a group, or actually being in the room. But you'll never see that if you won't even buy the book, or you won't even take that first step, right?
Well, I mean, think about it this way. In days gone by, long ago, transmission of information was one-on-one or by small groups. You know, Jesus wrote on the ground in the sand and taught in parables. But imagine being with Jesus versus reading about Jesus, which is what we do today. Imagine being with Buddha instead of reading Buddha's text. Imagine being able to spend time with a living example or a living mentor or coach or a guide. You know, because in the earlier days, it was what's called an apprenticeship. And you know what an apprenticeship was? They were free. Okay, maybe. Because what the apprentice normally did was serve the master craftsperson, and they did their laundry and their clothes and whatever in exchange for learning. I mean, it wasn't that it was free. It was that they had to be a servant. And the basic mentorship or apprenticeship was about 7 years of servitude in exchange for learning to become good enough to be considered a fellow craft, not a master craftsman, but a fellow craft. Yes. And from that journey, you became more seasoned and more experienced, until you became a master craftsman. And then you took the apprentices and you taught it. So that was the way we did things for eons until the printing press. And then the printing press gave way to the audio, the video, the internet. So things have changed, but there's no replacing that one-on-one transmission, the experience of being together with someone and hearing their voice or seeing their image or being with them. And guess what? Their energy can come through the internet, through the Wi-Fi. I mean, we have that experience. I, for years, refused my own office said, Rex, put out your books, I refused to do it for the simple reason that I said, and I still maintain this to some extent, that is, people read books, they don't do anything with it, or they read it like a novel to get it done, or they read the book, and then when they come to a workshop or a seminar, or a mastermind or program or masterclass or something, then they spend all their time waiting for you to say the things that you said in the book, instead of being open to the experience and being new and being available and being like a sponge to soak it up. But if you take the time and you get into a program, you get into a workshop, a masterclass, mastermind, if you take the coaching and the mentoring, you know what? Everything can become available to you because it's a completely different process and you're not doing it alone. You're not trying to figure it out. So it's an infusion of energy and the ability for you to open up and excel and go beyond anything that you can imagine.
And look, we've got so much support in the chat, and there's quite a few people logged on in all these different places who, we need to wrap this up. I mean, is it right with everybody if we spend like 5 more minutes? Just like, I want to show something from a show we did a couple of weeks ago with none other than Les Brown, right? And I've got a little clip, and we were talking away with Les, and I've been fortunate enough to spend some time with Les. Back in 2017, we did some stuff in Jamaica, which was very cool. But I asked the question, how? And Les was like, Danny. And this is the clip that follows. Is it all right with everybody if we just it's literally a 1-minute clip? Can I do that? Let us know just like in the comments, because like everyone's got their eyes on, right? So I'm going to play this clip real quick, and then we're going to come back and then we're going to close out the show, right? So if you've not seen the all interview, it's on YouTube. But check this out from Les Brown, Rex and I. I asked how And this is where it led.
We never should ask the question how. Nothing ever gets done when people stand around asking how. The times that we accomplish incredible things is when we make the commitment. Former President John F. Kennedy called a meeting. And when I was a kid, to illustrate that something was impossible, we would say, you have as much chance of doing that as the man going to the moon. John F. Kennedy called a meeting, and the meeting was set up to say that we're going to beat the Russians to the moon. And the question was asked, how are we going to do it? And he looked at Werner von Braun. He was a very brilliant scientist from Germany. And everybody was set to hear a long lecture of budget and the whole mechanics of what it's going to take. And he spoke these words: the will to do it. Just 5 words. How are we going to go to the moon? The will.
Wow. It is so true.
Profound. Now, we do have to wrap this up, and we will be back every single week. Now, before we go, we put something out there kind of testing this the other day, and we are going to take it offline, Rex, right? So we've
well, let's tell them what we have, because we've got the club, and give them a little thought about that before we take it away. So we've put something together, and I've kind of like twisted Rex's arm a little bit, because there's all this stuff, and like he just said, he's like, oh man, I don't want to put these things out on the internet, and there's some stuff in a membership site, and I've kind of done the technology thing, and I think I've created a really good opportunity for folks to access an ongoing opportunity to be in the room, whether that's virtually or maybe in person eventually. We've had so many amazing guests, and I was like, how can we do the best of Rex Sikes? What would this look like? Can we do events? And we're talking about all this stuff. We've created an opportunity for anybody to get into the virtual room with Rex and friends and see some of this content firsthand with like 0 risk, right? That's the plan. There's 0 risk in this. And if you like it, after 2 weeks, you can pay a small amount of money, which is actually a ridiculously low amount of money. Hence the reason we're going to take it down, because people have jumped on this and they've signed up. The first thing that happens is you sign up, you get effectively a free trial, and you're going to get access to a bunch of stuff from Rex. You get a chapter from the book and a bunch of other things. Does that sound like a plan? There's people like do that, no risk. All you have to do is secure your space on the trial. But if you decide like 13 days you could just cancel and you don't get billed a thing, and you get to keep all of the free stuff that I've twisted Rex's arm to give you, right? And he's reluctant to do this, but you heard from Ben Gay just now that normally are, you've just seen what we've just done on the interview. Folks like Les Brown, Rex Sikes, Jarrett Robbins. We're not saying all these people are in there, but there's content, and you might be able to be in a session with some of these guys. We have got a little offer, but we are going to take it down because we want to tweak it. But while we're on this show right now, for literally, I coined the phrase, the risk is on Rex, right? Because we put all this time and effort and money to get all this thing together, and we've edited a bunch of stuff. The first thing you actually get is a call with Rex's team. That's us, right? So we're literally going to jump on a call with you and talk to you, welcome you, with the view that you're going to stay forever, right? And Rex, you want to deliver a good service. There's a bunch of amazing things in there. We have put a little site together, but I don't want to give you any links. I don't want to do anything on here unless you guys are like, yes, Danny, yes, Rex, that sounds amazing. I'm prepared to take a risk, and then we'll share it with you, right? So, like, Julie's like, no risk is always cool. Jordan's like, everyone share this. But if you let us know in the chat right now, we can share this. You can check it out. Sign up, get the free trial. You get a couple of weeks. You get access to a bunch of stuff in there, which is like super cool content. Some of it's never been seen. And you get that call with the team, which is like kind of like us, to get you started on that journey. And then if this works, how we know it's going to work before we start mailing it to thousands of people and planning events around it, we're going to start to add more and more content, right? So if you guys want Rex and friends and the best of and sneak peeks into programs and different things, absolutely free, risk-free,
all you need to do is sign up for a trial. And if you don't like it, you can cancel. That sounds good. We'll share the link in here. Otherwise, we could just go and like finish the show, Rex, right? You can talk about it a little bit because it's your program. It's your amazing work. And I'm just like honored to be able to pull this stuff together.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, my life has been a life of service. It's about adding value and going beyond it, going the extra mile. I'm very pleased with the book. I'm very pleased with all the programs that I've created and have done and do around the world, or where people have flown in to see me live or online, because they are helping people change lives. You know, but the key to that is that you have to apply it. You've got to do it. And when I've done live workshops and at masterminds, you know, for the last 40 or 50 years, the cool part about it is that community and the ability to do things together and to actually have access to myself, the people like Danny, Ben, and the other people who may be joining us, is to literally infuse people with the ability to say, I can change. Because so many people, you know, sadly think it's not possible. You know, again, it's a thought that stops them. So this is an opportunity to take the very best of my friends and interest and be able to introduce them to you in our club, our program, and to have Danny and myself be able to reach you and help you in whatever way you want to be a part of this.
So we've got a bunch of folks in here actually saying share it. I want folks to take it seriously, but we are going to take it down.
Yeah.
And we are going to, whoever gets in, you're in. If it's 2 people, 1 person, 5 people, whatever, right? I don't know how many people are watching this right now.
Well, it could be 50,000, but
yeah. But we need to tweak a few things. I want to change some of the stuff. Some of you guys might have already seen this, but we are going to literally disconnect it in like 2 hours from now. So if you're on the chat right now and you're prepared to take a risk and you've got a workable credit card that's not even going to get charged if you decide to cancel, you know you're going to get a call with Rex or myself or both, and that's worth the free money that you're risking, right? The risk is on Rex, it's on us, and we don't take this lightly. If you want the link and it's all right, I'll tell you what you get, and then we'll finish the show, right? This is the plan. So you're going to get a PDF chapter from the book. We're just showing you the book. So if you've not got the book, you get a chapter to read absolutely free on Rex, right? The risk is on Rex. You get some cool videos from our little success framework that we put together and some cliff notes from Attitude Activator, which is an amazing program. This is like, what, a $2,000 program, Rex?
The Mind Design is the $2,000 program. The Attitude Activation audio program, yeah.
We've got them back to front. But you're going to get cliff notes from both, which is real cool. So it saves you a big bunch of money. If you like it, you can go and buy the program, but you don't have to. So you get the PDF chapter of the book, you get the success framework, you get Attitude Activator cliff notes and Mindset Design notes. We're also going to do a little thing around online marketing with me, which is ongoing, which you're going to love. And we're going to give you access to a private community. There's some calls as you move forward. We'll explain all that when you're onboarded. And we'll give you all of the replays from everything we do on Rex Sikes TV from now going forward. And there's some other bonuses as well. Now, we've added up the total of all of that, and it's insane. And we want to give you everything pretty much for free. You just take the trial. We're going to add content as you move. If you decide to cancel, you get to keep all that stuff, and the risk is on Rex. So that sounds like a game plan. They give you the link. Everyone's like, should we do it? They're like, going to give the link. If you want the link, I'm going to put that up in the chat right now. But you've literally got like an hour and 30 minutes to make your decision, even less, because then we're just going to take it away, right? So what you're going to do is go to www.rexsikes.club. You join the club, and we'll book a call. You get on the calendar straight away. You can book the call with Rex, myself, or both of us. We'll bring you on board. We'll give you the book. We'll give you the framework, the cliff notes, the replays, the community, all sorts of cool stuff in that. And then because you're going to love it, after the 2 weeks is up, you're going to join as a full member, and you're going to get even more stuff. And Rex is going to keep bringing his amazing friends and people who are just awesome, like Ben Gay the third, who we've just had the pleasure of spending an hour and 10 minutes with. So if that sounds like a plan, the link's on the screen. But if you're watching this after the show on June 5th, when you go to that link, either it's not going to be there, there'll be a waiting list, or it will be there, but the price for the membership will have increased considerably. And we're not saying that lightly. It's not fake scarcity. We're literally going to disable it in an hour and 30 minutes from now. I'm going to put it on waiting list, and then anybody in after that, we're going to make a decision of what that looks like, right? So if you guys want to get in on that before like it runs out, and you want to be in the room with Rex, just rexsikes.club, links down below. that's it. It's not a hard sell, a hard pitch. There's a bunch of value in that. And I'm like signed up. I'm all in. So, Rex, with this information, folks can do as they please. What's coming up next?
Well, in terms of what we're doing now, the thing that we talked about a little bit earlier, Ben is part of this process, this club that we're talking about. So they ought to know that too. And then our next guest. Do you have a graphic for our next guest yet?
Graphic for next guest will be out tomorrow, but you can name and you can tell us all about it, because I know we've got some amazing guests lined up, right? He's on the drawing board.
Yes, but I've got to go find out who my next guest is.
We've got guests like lining up, right? And we know we've gone on a little bit longer than normal. It's been an amazing show today. Do you have the will? Like Les Brown said, you have the will to do it, right? It's like www.rexsikes.club. We've got some amazing guests lined up, and it's just a pleasure to stand here and to questions and listen and take part in this. Let us know in the comments if you've enjoyed everything we've done so far on these shows. I'm really honored to do it. And Rex is busy scrolling through a gazillion emails to make sure we get this in the right order.
Trying to find out which my next guest is. I might have it on the calendar. I should look and see.
Yeah, calendar's always good.
Yeah. Oh my God. Our next guest is going to be Susan Lyons. Susan Lyons is an incredible person. You're going to want to be sure to hear from her. She's a filmmaker, producer. She does lots of movies and TV, and she is an inspiration to, as I am, to personal and professional development. And so you're going to want to tune in. That's on the next show, which is a week from today, which would be the 12th. So be sure to tune in.
It's going to be so good. So good. I can't wait to do that. Right. So we're 90 minutes in. We need to lie down in a dark room. It's been an amazing show, amazing program, amazing so far. You want to check that out, because there's some people are on there right now. But remember, it's going on waiting list in an hour and 30 minutes. www.rexsikes.club. All of the streams are on rexsikes.tv. And there's rexsikes.com as well. And we're trying to build all this together so you guys can access the best of Rex wherever you go. But you won't get anything like what you're going to get in the club for free. You need to join, you need to sign up, take that trial, take that risk. There's people already in there waiting to greet other members as well. And the risk is on Rex. So if you want to sign up to that, you get a big bunch of stuff on there. But from us right now, we're gone. We're out of here. It's been amazing.
Celebrate everything. Come join us.
We'll see everybody soon. See everyone next week. Rex, thanks so much.
Thank you, Danny.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.